Hi friends, I'm Scott from Sharky's Greenhouses and Beat Your Neighbor Fertilizer, and today we're taking a look at some great big planters that we have, and we have a party coming up. So we want these planters to look fabulous, and they look great right now, but our party is in a week and a half, and I know a lot of you have parties, or you might have a garden walk, a graduation ceremony or something that's maybe in your backyard or your front yard, and you want your flowers to look fabulous. So that's what we're going to be addressing today. So we've got these great big containers, and we have our son's graduation party coming up in just over a week, and of course I want these looking great. So what should I do? What steps should I do to take to make sure that they look great in 1 week? Well, as you can see, there's a lot of variety in these flowers, and some of them have different bloom cycles. So I really want to try to hit this so that everything is looking good at that time, so that they're at their peak right during that party. So, especially with verbena. Verbena has a cycle that you really need to time, and this verbena all looks great right now. But if it all looks great right now, it's all gonna go through that cycle at the same time, and this verbena will look more like the spent flowers here. I don't want that, so I really wanna heavily go through and deadhead this and make sure that everything is all fresh. So with all the variety that I have, especially with the verbena, the dahlias, I've got petunias, I've got geraniums, I've got biddens, there's a big variety here. So I'm gonna heavily go through and pluck and trim and deadhead and really make sure and force this growth. So I'm going to start with this planter here, and this plant, I absolutely love how this turned out, but especially with geraniums, I know that these geraniums are spent. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to crack it off. We call it cracking off at the neck, and we just take it down, right down to the neck right here, and crack that off. And especially the geraniums, I'm gonna go through and really take off probably all of them, because I know in a week, a little over a week, there's no problem. I know there's new buds down here, so I'm not worried about my timing. That if I go through and I take off all these beautiful red geraniums, I'll be just fine, in that 8-9 days that we have until the party. So I'm going to go through, and some of these are, I'm going to take this one off too. But what's really nice is if I dig down in these geraniums and I look, there are fresh ones coming up, so I'm not worried about that again. And what about the petunias? Now, if you've watched our videos, you know that generally I really don't deadhead much for petunias, but this series, and I love this series, it's great, but you can tell that these are a little bit older because they're a little bit more faded than the rest of these. So these are coming out nice and dark purple, and I can tell that that's a fresh one. And these faded ones, those that have spent their life, and they're ready to be deadheaded. So I'm going to go through again with that. I'm going to go through and heavily go through and deadhead those and get rid of those. Now moving on to my great big containers, and I'll go through and really take those down. But just for time's sake, I want to move on to what's next. Verbena, I'm going to take off all this beautiful, this burgundy verbena and the purples. I'm going to go through and just about clear out all of them. And normally verbena, when it needs to be deadheaded, we tell you, here and take it down and snip that off. You can tell that that's spent. And one of the things that we tell our customers is verbena, you really have to stay on top of it. And one of the things that's easy to remember is that Fertilizer Friday. When it's Friday and you know that it's a time to fertilize your plants, you know what? That's a great time, especially if you have verbena, to go through and deadhead and clean that up. So all this verbena is coming off. So it's going to take me a little bit to clean up all this verbena, but that's okay. I'm going to go through and I'm going to heavily clean it up because I want my timing right for that, 8 days or so ahead for the party next week. So that's what I'm going to do here. Now, biddens, these tiny little yellow flowers, that's something that also needs to be deadheaded, and they're pretty easy, but I'm going to go through and clean them up, and you can tell when those are spent. And I'm going to take down just about all of them because I can see all kinds of little buds in there. No problem again on that timing. And one of my last ones here is the dahlias. The dahlias, you can tell when they start getting spent, and that's not one I can just nip off, so I'm going to use my dram little pruning shears. These are handy, and go through and clip these off. And there are all kinds of nice fresh buds, so I'm going to go through and nip this whole thing and clean up all these little dahlia buds. So that's really, it's all about timing when you have a party coming up. And one I forgot to mention here, and they're closed up. They don't need to be deadheaded yet, but I'm going to, is the gazanias. And because the sun is setting, the gazanias put themselves to bed. So gazanias open and close with the sun, and because we're in the shade now, guess what the gazanias did? They closed up for the night. But again, the gazanias, I'm going to go through and I'm going to nip off all of them, because when I look down, there's all kinds of fresh buds. Now the other thing that I'm going to do, of course, is fertilize my flowers. So I'm going to use the Beat Your Neighbor fertilizer, and I really want to push these because I really want that fresh growth, and I want this all looking fantastic for the party. So I'm actually going to fertilize about every other day or every 3 days to really get everything pushing along and make sure that these look fantastic and it looks like I own a greenhouse. So I hope those tips help. If you're liking our videos, please be sure to give us a thumbs up and follow us on Facebook, and then also be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And you can head over to our beatyourneighbor.com website, and we have lots of tips and tricks and blog articles, and of course our Beat Your Neighbor fertilizer and all kinds of other products like these little pruning shears that are really handy, and these are from Dram, and you can all find that over at beatyourneighbor.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.